Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is Chris Neidl from Open Air here, and I'm joined by some SB 308 CDR buddies. What I decided to do spontaneously for followers and supporters of Senator Josh Becker's bill, SB 308, which is, as we say, without exaggeration, it's really one of the most consequential, probably the most consequential carbon dioxide removal demand support bill ever introduced. And it's been in the legislature now since last year, and a lot of us have been working to campaign to make it law. I'll explain a little bit about that if you're new to the bill. And what we did about a month and a half ago is that the bill was going through its first committee in the Assembly, so a small group of Assembly members who vote on whether or not the bill should proceed. This was the Assembly Natural Resources Committee. I decided to go ahead and live stream the live stream of that, and so people could sort of watch it. We had, I think a lot of people liked that. We had about 40 to 50 people at different points that were tuning in. And so I figured I would do the same because today is a day of huge consequence for the bill. It's the last committee that it has to go through. That's the Appropriations Committee. And that hearing was supposed to start about 8 minutes ago. These things are always late because there's a lot of business happening in the Capitol right now. So I thought I would stream that. And then we would also be able to have a little bit of commentary, sort of mystery science theater, but kind of talk about the bill a little bit. We had a couple of really awesome things that have happened lately. We had a great lobbying day in Sacramento yesterday that all the people who are here on screen with me attended, along with about 45 other people. So I figured we could kind of talk shop a little bit about SB 308. If people had questions, they can pop them in the chat or comments, and we can kind of talk through those. So just a totally casual viewing. As we get closer to when SB 308 will be read in the hearing, you'll see me start to perspire and maybe faint because this is a big deal. It has to make it out of here in order to stay alive during Appropriations Committee. So what Appropriations is, this is basically how the state spends its money, right? So any bills that have a price tag or what they call a fiscal impact that's associated with it, they have to get reviewed by that committee. And then it's not just they get killed or they go forward. That committee often alters them and cuts certain things out that they think have the highest cost. So what we're looking for today is to, one, make sure that the bill, what they say, passes out of or reports out of the committee, or if it's held back. And that's the bad thing. That means essentially that the bill is dead. We're at the end of the legislative session, at least for now. So what we're going to be looking for is what happens to it. Does it make it out? How much has it been changed? And we can maybe talk through some of the things that we think might be under consideration by the committee in terms of changes. This type of hearing, if you've attended hearings like this before, or if you tuned into the Assembly Natural Resources Committee, Appropriations Committee hearings are a lot different. So with those other hearings, you get people who are the sponsor of the bill comes up and gives a sort of the case for it. They'll bring expert witnesses who will come up and they'll testify about why the bill is good. Then citizens who are in the room or any other stakeholder can come up and just say, I support the bill. And then the people who are opposed to it do the exact same thing. And then the Assembly members of the committee ask questions, give comments, and then they vote. And so it's aye or nay, yes or no. And then, they rule the gavel that, yes, this is going to get passed out and reported, or no, this is not going to get passed out. Appropriations are a bit different. They're more DMV level of sort of interaction. There's a lot of bills. There's, I think, about 320 bills or so that are being considered today, but there's no testimony. There's no back and forth. The chair of the committee, Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, I presume, there might be others too, we'll sort of read out the status of the bill, whether it's being reported out, what changes have been made. And so we'll have a lot of downtime right now. But what I've looked at, if they do it in numerical order, which at least in other places where I've done this, it's often the case, SB 308 is, I think, like number 22 on the list of like 300 or something. So it'd be relatively early. So it could be early. It'll be very, very quick. And yeah, it'll be very, very high suspense. So we thought we would, those folks right now, I don't think anybody on stream yet. But we did push this out to LinkedIn. Last time, again, we had about 40 or 50 or so people joined. So hopefully we'll get some people come on. So in the meantime, while we wait, as soon as we get the hearing and we see on the website, I'm going to go ahead and pop in the page that people can actually just look at in the comments. This is the hearing page on the Assembly site. Okay. And this is where you can actually live stream it yourself and just watch it that way. But it also shows the agenda of all the bills and stuff like that. So once that little watch button in the corner of that page goes live, we'll go ahead and put that on and we'll continue to talk either on screen or off screen. But for right now, since there's nothing to look at, we'll look at me and Tito and black screens for Sean and Pete. We might have a couple of other people. So why did I bring these fellas on the call with me? And there might be other people that pop in and out. I'm going to first just maybe have you guys introduce yourselves, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the cool stuff that happened yesterday. So maybe Tito, since you're visible, I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Hey everybody. I'm Tito Jankowski. I am the CEO of Air Miners. We're a community and an accelerator program for everybody working on removing carbon from the sky. We've had 166 graduates from our program that have raised $130 million of capital for their companies. And it's great to be here. And it's great to be at the lobbying day yesterday. It was totally a first for me across the board. And I'm sure we'll get to share
Tito,
more about that.
When I thought about the lobbying day and I saw that you RSVP'd for it, I was like, if there's anybody who is a natural lobbying day, you are that person. So we'll talk about the lobbying day in a second. So
cool.
I'm so happy you were there and you had so much fun. I think people had a lot of fun. So and then I'll go, hey, Sean, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Sean Hubley here. I'm with Smart Policy Group, and we represent the U.S. Biochar Coalition nationwide of dozens of biochar producers, manufacturers, and project developers. SB 308 is absolutely critical for the biochar industry and the broader carbon removal industry as well. And we're incredibly excited and hopeful about the passage of this bill out of the Appropriations Committee today. So we'll be watching with a keen eye.
Yeah, big time. Cool. And then Pete, who's been here from the earliest days of our campaign, even last year, really happy he's joining. He was in Sacramento with us yesterday too.
Yep. So Pete Chargan, I live in Senator Becker's district, and so I've been very happy and proud to be helping with the bill. I actually work on policy not only in California but also at the federal level. So I'm on the board of something called the Bipartisan Climate Action. We're a PAC, Super PAC, and C4, and I'm responsible for our Bipartisan Climate Council, which brings together members of Congress who are serious about passing legislation that is both meaningful and enduring, along with companies who are serious about making good policy. And Chris, thanks very much for all the work that you did, bringing together the 50 or so people and touching the vast majority of the members of the Assembly yesterday. They heard that there is a groundswell of support for Senate Bill 308 from Josh Becker. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And I see now that the watch thing has popped up. I'll go to that in a second. There's going to be a little bit of housekeeping and then, stuff like that, but it'll come relatively quickly. So I'll share that screen in a second. But just to what we're referring to here about yesterday. So those of you who have done, kind of grassroots advocacy around legislation of any kind, like a sort of a standard tool in the toolkit in terms of having influence is something called the lobbying day, where you go to the Capitol, you bring a bunch of people who are supportive of the bill. Yesterday we had, I don't have any more, I gave them out. We had stickers on our vest that say, I support carbon removal, I support SB 308. And the idea there is we book a bunch of very, very short, 15 to 20 minute meetings with different assembly members or their staff. We go to their offices. We talk to them about why we support this bill. We answer their questions and we make a direct ask, can we have your support for the bill, or what questions do you have? And so it was great. We had like 20 direct meetings with assembly members. And then one of the funner things, which turned up a lot of really good results, I think, were what we call drop-ins. So those assembly members, the other 60 who we weren't able to schedule meetings with, we show up at their office with our little handout that we have about the bill. And we say, hey, can we just talk to you for a second, or can we drop it off? And the people who came yesterday was a mix of, CDR people from various different startups, some scientists, but we had a lot of citizens, from all over California. And so they were the constituents of assembly members, and they were able to kind of talk directly and stuff. So I know Sean has done a ton of those before. I believe Pete has. And it was Tito's first time doing it. And just before I'll show some pictures later. Just before, hey Ross, I'll get you a button, man, or a sticker. Just before we switch over to the screen, Tito, it was your first time, and I know you had a lot of fun, as did a lot of people. But yeah, if you just want to take 30 seconds to kind of share your impressions of what the day was like.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was really well organized. It made it easy for me to come in and just like show up. We met at the Purple Heart Memorial out in the Sacramento Capitol building, and then we went in and we had some scheduled meetings. We had some drop-ins, and Chris, you were super supportive of like having everybody be able to speak, whether it was to the staff or the officials. It was just I was surprised how fun it was. We were there the whole day, and like by the end of the day, we were like going down the hall and being like, hey, who's that name on the door? And we'd go in and just say like, hey, we're here. We've got this piece of paper sharing about what we're working on in terms of reversing climate change. And the thing that most surprised me was just how receptive people were to hearing us out. We had one office that we went in, the Heath's office, and one of the staff there, Cooper, like heard us out on what we were talking about. And he was like, hey, let me go take you down to another office. So we went down to see another office, and then another office after that. And then after that, he was like, hey, give me one of those papers. I'm going to go take it to a third place. And so it's just this, it really felt like very collaborative, and that we were, whether people were voting for it or against it, was like, we're really out to, what we're creating is a better world.
Yeah, it is.
We have heard, if I can jump in,
yeah,
Chris, just to pile on to Tito, we have heard from staffers that it makes a real difference. It really does influence the way they think. And more importantly, or at least as importantly, it influences how much time they're going to spend reviewing the bill and determining whether or not they really are going to vote for it. So most bills don't have anyone advocating either positively or negatively. And so when we show up, either as an individual, a small group, or as yesterday, a big group, it really does have an influence.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most high impact tactics you can go with, and it's really dependent on you want to have a good showing. You're walking around the halls, you got the sticker. Even if you didn't talk to someone directly, they're going to see somebody with that sticker. The number will pop into their head. And there's hundreds of bills that legislators have to sort of consider. So you need to just elevate yourself to a level of visibility at a bare minimum. But it's also quality related. I was so impressed by the volunteers, a lot of citizens, so many people, it was their first time doing it. Tito, it was his first time doing it. You get really hooked on it, particularly for somebody who loves carbon removal, you understand the importance of it. It gives you an opportunity to like talk about it in a way that actually really, really matters. So yeah, it's definitely my favorite. I've done dozens of citizen lobbying types of activities throughout the my career, and it's definitely always a high point for me because it really matters. So let me do this here. I'm going to go ahead and just show the screen. A little foreboding is that it's not going in numerical order. So I'm going to keep touching in with, let me share this here real quick. Let me know if you guys can see that. Can you guys see?
Yep.
Okay, great. So again, not exactly Cirque du Soleil, but this is what it looks like, the business of the state. So right now, let me turn on the volume here real quick.
SB 1092, Blakespeare Coastal Commission Appeals Report, Holding Committee.
Okay, so they're really
SB 1098, Blakespeare, Lowson Rail
Corridor.
Corridor.
We're just going to sit here and listen to this for a little while.
Due date to date of appropriations.
And I'm just going to find out from the people on the inside where they think ours is in the bill.
Republicans
All right?
not voting.
So hang tight and we'll talk when we need to. And if you guys want to say anything in the meantime.
Racially motivated eminent domain. In Bradford, local cannabis taxation.
Keep it on mute. All right, so back to here. All right, so let me find out from some of the folks who are in the building if they have a sense of when we're going to come up, but it's moving very fast. You can see it's like every 20 seconds, I think it's changing.
Are they like voting on stuff right then?
They basically have already voted, and now they're reporting out. This is CDR. Oh, there's Delia. Hey, Delia.
Delia's here. What's up?
Yeah, my old buddy.
This is CDR Cirque du Soleil. Totally.
It is. It is.
Let me get upside down.
That.
So wait, are they saying stuff then, like Chris? Like so to the untrained ear, I'm like, they said a bunch of numbers, and then the screen change? Like, there's no, like, what are you hearing when you're hearing this?
Okay, so far I hear that it's held in committee. So let me do this here, which is not what we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this screen on and go silent and make a couple phone calls and find out exactly what the implications of that are. Okay, guys. So
this is it.
Hold your fingers, or not hold your fingers. Fingers crossed. So I'll be back in just a little bit. All right, guys. So what I'm going to do is I have to make a few phone calls right now, but it's not looking great, unfortunately. But I have to find out a little bit more, and so I'm not juggling too many things. So what I want to say, we only have a couple people on stream right now. We have to keep our heads up on this. I'm going to report back on exactly what happened and what our options are. One thing, not to sound like a grizzled veteran, even though I kind of am, is that these types of processes are always full of gigantic twists and turns. And so you just keep proceeding. We obviously always have options to pursue. But one of the things that I want to, let me stop sharing here, that I also want to say is, and this isn't just consolation for it, what happened prior to SB 308 getting introduced is that among legislators, there was zero understanding of what carbon removal was. It was not on anybody's radar whatsoever. And we went through a process of 2 different years now of engaging and talking through, raising awareness, getting people to understand that carbon removal has to be a part of the overall net zero picture. And that idea has penetrated very deeply and generally uncontroversially. So when stuff like this happens, it's not necessarily a rejection of the idea of carbon removal. There's a million other things at play, some of which that are internal to the bill itself. You know, there's a lot of dynamics between different stakeholders. There's oil and gas was opposed to it. Different groups were opposed to it. But a lot of times it has to do with what is the general, this is the Appropriations Committee. So this is how money is going to be spent. This is a deficit year for California, even though the price tag of our bill was relatively small in the near term. We knew that this is a really, really difficult year fiscally, where a lot of bills, regardless of the merits, were just getting rejected out of hand because they cost anything, right? So what you do in this type of situation, and we're going to, I will report back again as soon as I know more, but you continue to proceed and you build on all of the stuff that we did, which doesn't just vanish, okay? Obviously, we want a certain result this session. There's no sugarcoating that. But we have made an enormous amount of progress, and we're going to continue to progress. So hang tight, guys, through both on LinkedIn and through our group WhatsApp for SB 308. I will report back as soon as I know what's going on. But let's keep on keeping on. And I want to thank Pete, Sean, and Tito for coming yesterday. Regardless of what the result is today, it made a big difference, and it gives us something, a stage to stand on as we keep moving forward. So I'm going to end the stream right now. I'm going to find out more, and then I'll report back. But thank you guys so much for joining, and let's see what's going on. All right.